So far, we've explored controlling the structure of pages through HTML and the styling of pages through CSS. So now I want to turn our attention to controlling the behavior of page elements. And for that, we're going to be using JavaScript. JavaScript is a scripting language that's based on the ECMAScript standard, although it's not quite as easy to learn as, say, HTML or CSS. It really isn't that difficult, and the syntax is similar to other scripting languages. So once you've learned the basics of one, it's pretty easy to transition to another. Although JavaScript is not required for websites to display, it has evolved into an incredibly important part of the web design process, so it is a skill that you want to pick up and learn. In this case, I don't have the hello from the previous exercise open. I have the one from the 0103 folder opened up. There's a little bit more to this. If you scroll down at the bottom, you can see what I'm talking about. There's some code that's already down here. If I open that up in my browser, I can kind of see that I've added a button here that says change color. If I click it right now, it doesn't do anything. And then I have this weird sort of gobbledygook out here to the side. You can ignore that. That won't display when we're finished with this. Okay, the same way that when we were doing our CSS earlier, we had to use HTML to enclose that in a style tag. When you're writing JavaScript, you'll need to enclose that in a script tag. Again, it's HTML's way of letting the browser know that, hey, there's some scripting that's going to be occurring. So what I'm going to do is just below the button, but in front of the closing body tag, I'm going to open up a script tag. I'm going to hit return, and then I'm going to close that script tag. So anywhere that I want to do a little bit of scripting, all I have to do is open and close that tag. Now, there are some best practices around where JavaScript should be placed. Just like CSS, it's a better idea to externalize it into an external JavaScript file and then bring it in as a resource. This is just an exercise to basically show you how JavaScript works. The other thing is the reason that the script in this case is at the bottom of the page is because JavaScript sort of interrupts the process of the page loading. The browser will open it up, it'll find some scripting, and it'll say, oh, that needs to run. So it'll pause everything else that's going on and run the script and then come back. So if we place this at the very beginning, then our page wouldn't have loaded when the script executes, and we can't really have that. So now I'm going to go down, and all of this stuff, this gobbledygook down here at the bottom, I'm going to copy that or cut that. Actually, I'm going to cut it. And then inside that script tag, I'm going to paste it. So I'm basically just trying to save us a little time and a little typing. So let's pay attention to this and see what's happening here. This first line inside the script tag right here says document get element by ID color on click equals change color. Oof, that sounds terrifyingly difficult, but it's actually really, really simple. The same way that we used CSS selectors earlier, right up here to target an element on the page, we're using what we call dot syntax to do the same thing. We're saying, hey, look inside the current document and then find an element by its ID attribute. Get element by ID attribute. Which attribute? Color. So if you look through your HTML, you can see that the button right here, this element, has the attribute of ID equals color. So cool. So this basically, this line right here is saying, hey, go find this button. Then there's another little dot here that says on click. Now, on click is an event. It's basically saying when that button is clicked, I want you to do something. And what is it that we want the browser to do? We want it to change color. So essentially when the button is toggled back and forth, we want the color of the text to change. Okay, so what is change color? Is it something that's already built into JavaScript? No, I made it up out of thin air. This could have been switch color, toggle color, change color, whatever I wanted to call it. Essentially what this is it's the name of a function. And you can see right here, I'm creating a function and I'm naming that function change color. And just like CSS with these curly braces, functions also have little curly braces that indicate all of the code that should run when that function is being called. So the easiest way to think about a function is it's just a block of code that's saved and stored. And you can run it whenever you want by just calling the function. So all you have to do to make this code execute is call the function, which is what we're doing right here. So essentially it's saying, hey, every time this button is clicked, run this code right here. Okay, cool. Now inside the code, I have a little if statement. Before we get to that, I need to set up a variable. So I'm going to go down below the line that says document, and I want you to type in var and then a space. Var is a keyword that says, hey, I need to create a new variable. After that, we're going to do current color. You'll notice this is all one word, and I'm using what we call camel case naming or camel case naming convention. It's lowercase for the first word, and then every word after that that's jammed together gets an uppercase. So var current color equals, and then in quotation marks, the word red. Quotation marks makes that a literal string, meaning just these letters, okay? So essentially what this is doing for us, and I guess I can get rid of some of this white space here. What this is doing for us is it's saying, hey, I want a variable called current color and I want its value to be red. This equals is what we call an assignment operator. It's assigning a value to the variable. What's a variable? Well, I don't know. The easiest way for me to describe a variable is a pickle bucket. When I was a little kid, I used to go down to the stream behind my house and I had a pickle bucket. And every day I would find something in that stream and put it in the pickle bucket. Some days it was an unlucky frog. Other days it was like a crawfish. It may be a rock on a slow day, but it was something that I wanted to check out later. And so I would just store it in the pickle bucket, and the pickle bucket is like that. It's a variable. You can put anything you want to inside of it. In this case, the current color variable is red because that's the current color of our page. Okay, cool. All right, so now let's go down to our function and let's go ahead and complete our function. This looks, again, really complicated, but it's not. I have what's called an if-else statement, and this is a conditional statement, conditional logic that allows me to make smart applications. It allows me to write smart code that tells it to do something if a condition is true. So what I'm going to do is inside the parentheses right after the word if here, I'm going to type in current color. Oops, and I got to spell that right? Current color. Now, and spelling and capitalization counts, guys, in JavaScript. So if you have errors with the code at the end of the exercise, when you test it, if it doesn't work, go back and double check all of your spelling, all of your capitalizations, all of your punctuation, because all that stuff really matters. Okay, so I'm going to say if current color. What's that? That's the variable we've just said here. And then I'm going to say equals. So two equals, and then the word red in quotation marks again. So what does that do for me? Well, remember, this one equal sign right here is what we call an assignment operator. It assigns the value. The double equals that I have right here checks. It checks the value. So it's saying if current color is equal to red. So if current color is red, let's do something. Now the do something is going to be inside these curly braces right here. Okay. So I'm going to hit return so that I have some space inside of there. And then I'm going to go ahead and type in, and if you want to tab over a little bit, you can. It's up to you. It's just however you'd like to format this. Okay. I'm going to say document dot body. Remember, that's targeting the element on the page, right? It's saying, hey, go inside the current document and find the body element. And then I'm going to have another dot, and here I'm going to say style. I want you to change the style of this so you can actually change the CSS through JavaScript. And then I'm going to say color. So it's going to say, which property do you want to change? I want to change color. And I'm going to make that equal to green. So I'm going to change the color to green if the current color is red. So basically it's saying, hey, if the current color is red, take the body and change that to green. Pretty easy, right? Now, since I want this to toggle back and forth, I need to update my variable. Remember, variables, just like my pickle bucket, can have anything inside them that I want. So in this case, I'm going to change that value and I'm going to say current color is now equal to green. And you'll notice that what I'm doing here is I'm using the assignment operator again. So equals, okay? So this is saying that, hey, if the current color is equal to red, if the current color is red, then find the body element, change its color to green, and then update my variable so that it's now green. And the next time it checks it, it'll say, oh no, it's not red. And that's where this comes in. This is the else. So this is what to do if the color is red. And the else is what to do if it's not red. And of course, in this case, if it's not red, it's going to be green. So I'm going to go down into the else statement, and in between its curly braces, and again, where you place this code really matters. So if this is your first time ever doing JavaScript, if you've never written stuff like this before, make sure you pause the video and make sure you very, very carefully type all this stuff in and make sure your screen matches mine. Now, there is a finished version of this in the finished files folder of the 01_03 directory. So if you hit a snag, or if your code just isn't looking the same way as mine, or if it's not executing, open up that file and just compare yours to that one, and you should be able to find out exactly where the problem is. Okay. And actually, I love saving myself some time. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this, and then inside the else statement, making sure I'm inside that line there, I'm just going to paste it. Okay. Now, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if I changed the color from green to green. So I'm going to change the color back to red, and I'm going to change the value of current color back to red. There's one last thing I need to do here, and I'm going to save that. One last thing. You'll notice that after the else statement, I have a little keyword here that says return. And that basically is saying, okay, after this function is run, what value do I get returned out of the function? Functions don't have to have a value returned out of it. It's just, in this case, it's nice because we want to make sure that this variable current color equals red, that's maintained, that it updates basically. So I'm going to say return current color. So after it does one or the other, it's going to return that value so that that value is constantly kept track of. It'll either be red or it'll either be green. Okay, fingers crossed, if we did this right, and I save this, if I go back to my browser and refresh it, first thing that we notice is that gibberish sort of has gotten off the page. That's good, because anything within the style tags isn't going to be rendered as HTML. It's going to be executed as JavaScript. And now I'm going to click change color. You'll notice that it toggles back and forth between green to red. Now you may notice that it's changing only the paragraph and not the heading. And you might say to yourself, well, wait a minute, didn't we apply that to the whole body tag? Why is it just affecting the paragraph and not the heading? The reason for that has everything to do with CSS. And it's because we applied a specific color to the H1. And in CSS, the more specific the value is the winner when there's a conflict. So essentially, because that is targeting the H1 instead of just sort of a global body property, it overwrites that. Any child style overwrites the parent style. And those are the kind of rules. Those are the kind of little things that you'll need to learn as you're learning HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so there's our working script. Now, that is probably not the most efficient way to change our text color, but it does give you some idea of what JavaScript is capable of. It allows you to do things like submitting forms, validating form information, animating elements on the page, and a whole lot more. You should definitely view JavaScript as an essential web design skill and work with it as early and as often as possible as you learn web design.